Hi there, I'm Nathan Fan.
And I'm Paul Kosmala.
And we are the
Critical
Reviewers. Something like that.
Something
We're
like
out of
that.
practice. Hi guys, and we know we've been gone for a little while. We've been focusing on some other projects, but we're not here to talk
Dark
about
Things
those.
Episode 2. Go watch it.
Yes, go watch it.
It's
but
on
first,
our channel.
But
It's
first,
down there.
Yes.
Right here.
I don't
Click
know
the
where it
link.
is. Okay, I'm assuming he'll do that in post
Okay.
because I'm not doing it in post. We're here to talk about The
Amazing
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Dos. Tres.
No, not Tres. All right,
Dos.
that hasn't come out yet.
So, quick plot synopsis.
First of all, if you don't want any spoilers and you just wanted to get our consensus whether or not to go see it or wait till it comes out, go see it in theaters. I think it's worth seeing in theaters.
It's worth seeing in theaters.
We thoroughly enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
there it is. Beyond this point, there are spoilers. So,
Abound.
spoilers out the wazoo.
Okay,
Yes.
so starting with the first, we start with
The
Ben. No, not Ben Parker.
we're talking about the plot. We're not going to talk
yeah,
about
we're just going
advertising.
straight to the plot.
Okay, straight to the plot. Advertisements, you've seen them.
Yeah.
And you know
They
you know
ruin
what you're getting
everything,
for.
you
They
know
do.
it already.
So don't. So it starts off with a flashback. You see basically Richard Parker, Peter Parker's
Thank
dad.
you. Yeah, that was
He's killing his spiders and he's getting out of the lab, and then he grabs his wife, he drops off his son, and he gets on a plane, and they're like, okay, upload the thing to the Roosevelt. Okay.
Did they have Wi-Fi back then?
No, they had internet, which we'll
okay,
get
well-
back. There's a little plot hole
Okay,
here. So basically, they're on the plane and like, okay, we can get away, we can be safe, and then the guy
But
comes
then
in
the co-pilot is really a killer
Is
for
an assassin,
Oscorp or something,
and then
he's washing his
takes
blood,
them out.
and then he
basically kills
kills
them,
them.
but Richard Parker manages to upload something to Roosevelt.
Which
Whatever
I don't
that
think
means.
that's how uploading works.
Well, no, okay, it's
But
not just that because
anyway.
he gets interrupted, but it's also the matter of if there is internet on this plane, say 10 years ago, however long it is, isn't that one of those things you can control from like a box
pilot?
or the
Yeah.
pilot? Like the pilot, you say, "Oh, no internet."
That
so
would be
wouldn't
good.
the assassin just be like, "Oh, let's cut off their means to communication in the outside world"?
That would be
ignoring that. Let's move past that. Let's say
Let's
that
move past
he had
that.
no way of affecting the internet.
So then it goes to Peter Parker,
Peter Parker.
doing the future Rhino guy,
Oh yeah, Alexei. So basically, they're
saving like nuclear terrorists.
He's
while
basically-
he's on his way to graduation.
yes,
It's
he's
like,
on his way to
okay.
his own graduation, and he decides to stop and help people. And in the process,
against
he
the
saves.
stereotypical Armenians.
No, he was Russian. The guy was
Russians,
Russian. It
Russians.
was Paul Giamatti as Alexei.
Which I didn't recognize him as Paul Giamatti.
I did.
until
I called
like,
it until I was like, "That's Paul Giamatti." He's like, "That's not."
like,
Alexei
really? Okay.
Sitsov or something like that. Anyways, and so he manages, but along the way he saves Max Dillon's life, and he's the guy who's going to become Electro.
Which,
Spoiler.
by the way, I didn't know. I completely, when I went into it, forgot that Electro was a thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, that's nice." It's like, "Oh, you're gonna be a villain."
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's right. Electro's.
So
in
he
the
saves
movie.
he saves Max Dillon's life, and then Max Dillon starts to obsess over Spider-Man, and he like has pictures of him all over the place, and he talks
Like,
to himself and
ooh.
answers. He has full conversation with the Spider-Man, answering for Spider-Man, like, "Of course you're here today. It's my birthday. I know it's your birthday. That's why I'm here. Because
He's
you're
like,
my best
"Oh."
friend." Yes, I am. And you're just like, "Oh man, this is all sort. This
That's
is
all kinds of.
all kinds of badness."
Oh.
Anyways,
Which I really loved. I liked him
so
a lot as Max.
So around the same exact time, we've got Harry Osborn returning from schooling overseas in boarding schools, and we meet Norman Osborn, who is dying from some debilitating disease, which he's passed on to his son, and the dad dies, and ownership of Oscorp passes over to Harry Osborn, and Peter Parker hears that Harry Osborn has passed, and he goes to say hello to his old friend Harry Osborn, and at first
Which we
I was
see
like,
for the first time.
which we see for the first time, and they spark their friendship up again, and they start talking. And at one point, it is revealed that he's dying, and he needs Peter's help because Peter's taking pictures of Spider-Man, and he thinks that Spider-Man's blood can save his life because it's a
Because
project.
spiders and Oscorp.
Because they created the
things
spiders.
He knew.
Because Richard Parker and Norman
He knew.
Osborn were working on research that said that the spiders can self-heal at a far more advanced rate than humans can. So we've spliced it with human DNA with these spiders so that you can cure cancer and things like that.
So,
Um,
oh yeah, and
and
Gwen
then-
and him break up, get back together.
There's this whole
man,
that
man,
made
man.
me go, are we really going to toy with this? Because I thought we dealt with it at the end of the last movie. You know, when she said, "But those are the best kind of promises to break," or he said that, whatever it was. Anyways, but he's also being haunted because he keeps on seeing the
father.
I forget his name, something Stacy, James, something like that. The old police chief Stacy, who keeps on appearing to him and just giving him disapproving looks.
Like,
from beyond the grave.
Okay.
And then we've got Max Dillon, who is fallen into a tank of eels and being electrocuted at the same time.
Because the eels bit him, and that turned him electric. It's how
electricity
works.
If you can buy into a radioactive spider biting a guy and turning him into...
But these eels weren't radioactive. They were just eels,
as
far as I know.
I don't know. Special eels. There was some new...
The movie left it a mystery.
Anyway. Disbelief. It's a superhero movie.
They set it up to frame Harry Osborn.
Basically, yeah. So basically, ownership has passed over to Harry Osborn, but everyone on the board has basically framed him to make it look like he covered up Max Dillon's death. And so Harry Osborn decides to go visit Max Dillon at Ravencroft Institute for the Mentally or Criminally Insane, and he decides to spring him out. And so he springs him out. And he's like, "Yeah, just help me get revenge on Spider-Man," because Spider-Man has come to Harry Osborn and says, "I can't give you my blood, man, because I mean it could save you, but it could also kill you."
He didn't even say it could save you. It says, we don't know what's going to happen. You're probably going to die a horrible death.
Like, I'm already going to die a horrible death. Yeah, but no, I can't. And he's like, Spider-Man, table flip.
Which was really quick.
Yeah, and then we've got Max Dillon who, we forgot.
Oh, yeah,
how we got captured.
Then Max Dillon dies, then he wakes back up in the morgue, and then he goes and wanders
on a rampage in Times Square because...
No, it's not even a rampage. At first, it's just sort of I don't know what's going on.
But
and then Spider-Man goes on the TV and is like, fuck the spider!
Okay, no.
That's about it.
Spider-Man shows up and he's like, "Hey, let's what's going on?" And he's like, "You remember me? Do I?" And eventually he remembers him.
Because his face is blue. He would remember if face is blue, right?
And so basically, Spider-Man pisses him off because Spider-Man doesn't remember him, one, and secondly because some dumbass police officer fires at him, and now Electro thinks, "Spider-Man's setting me up!" Rah! And he just goes on a rampage, and Spider-Man vanquishes him. Sorry. So that goes, we can cut that and put it in over there. So...
No, we'll just keep it as is.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that was how important everything was to us in the order of which we remember it.
And so basically, of course, they
get Electro.
They thwart Electro, but then Gwen Stacy is like, "No, I want to help. You can't make these decisions for me. I want to be a part of your life." And because they keep on flip flopping between whether or not they're going to be together or not, even though they're clearly meant to be together. Then, of course, here comes Harry Osborn, who has decided to inject himself with a spider because there is some remaining spider venom from these radioactive spiders
in the secret vault of
Oscorp. And he injects himself. He's like, "Aha! I feel better. Oh no, I feel worse. Oh look, there's this suit that's supposed to save me. That is supposed to prolong your life.
Yeah,
and
it's supposed to heal you.
Which is why wouldn't you just put that suit on in the first place if you had to debilitate? Anyways. Another plot
holes
and
aside.
Of course, guess what the suit looks like? It's green, and it's got a little thing you fly on. Green Goblin comes in, and he comes in and he swoops up Gwen Stacy, and Spider-Man fights over Gwen Stacy, and then Gwen Stacy starts falling, and he gets Green Goblin out of the way, and he manages to shoot out a web, and he grabs Gwen Stacy, but whack, her head hits the floor, and she's dead.
Surprising death.
Yeah, it was, they kept on stringing
I knew she was going to die, but
if you're familiar with the comics, you know that he doesn't wind up with Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy was supposed to be his first love, but not his, not the
a tragic death by his own.
Partly due to his own fault. Yes.
He didn't save her in time.
And so then he wallows. He doesn't get quite as emo as Spider-Man gets in the third Spider-Man movie.
Oh, that's not a movie.
Yes, that's not
a movie.
That's we don't talk about that Spider-Man. That never happened.
An attempt at cash.
I didn't even watch the third Spider-Man movie.
You would be like,
probably. That's why I didn't watch it. So then he wallows, and then Aunt May is like, you gotta. You know what I'm doing? I'm putting all of Uncle Ben's stuff in a box.
You gotta forget everything and put it in a box and move on, because
and he watches
that's what a human does.
And so Spider-Man's been gone for the last 5 months of New York, and we see that Harry Osborn's trying to raise a team. I think it's the Sinister Six is basically what he's putting together. And they're wreaking havoc on the city, and Spider-Man watches the valedictorian speech that Gwen Stacy gave, and that
gives him encourage to fight the Rhino at the end.
So he puts on the suit, and he goes out and he fights the Rhino, and right as he's about to punch the Rhino, basically roll credits to show that he's back in action. We've got Spider-Man back. So that's the really rough, quick plot of it.
3 things that I really didn't like.
Okay.
First thing, on the opening plane sequence, they went to a shaky cam fight scene for no...
He just hates shaky cam in general.
I really hate shaky cam because they had cool things that
and it was rapid cuts, really fast cuts, always obscures things. Anyways.
After that, I really didn't like when Gwen Stacy was dying, and he was reaching with the web to save her, that the web turned into a little
tiny
hand, and I think that was just way overhanded and too much. Like, if it just went into like a thing, it was like cheese. You can smell it, and it didn't smell good. And the third thing I didn't like is how they handled the villains. Like, they were very...
The villains
they were very
way too
caricatures of themselves.
They were. Like, we had this really wonderful portrayal of Max Dillon obsessing. Like, you've got that kind of creepy, obsessed stalker, which is a little cliche.
He was a good actor, and he was really good.
Yes, he was. But he lost all interest the instant he became this rageaholic Hulk. He basically became the Hulk, is what he became. Which, I mean, is fine to an extent,
evil
but...
just because of the plot contrivance. It was not because that was where his character should have gone.
Right. Jekyll and Hyde is interesting because... You've got Jekyll who turns into Hyde, but always turns back into Jekyll and has to deal with repercussions. You've got Bruce Banner who turns into the Hulk and then has to turn back into Electro is just rage and electricity, which was I would have liked if a little bit more of
the problem
Max Dillon remained.
It was very clear he was capable of higher functioning. Mm-hmm. Like, he was dealing with Osborn, but
Oscorp.
No,
Harry Osborn. Okay, yes, Harry Osborn.
And like it was no emotion other than rage. It was just pure rage, and then all the subtle characters of Max Dillon were completely obliterated.
Which I think might have been kind of the point, but I definitely think it could have been fleshed out more.
He could have had more emotions than just pure rage. Yeah. He could have been like obsessive sadness too. Like, Spider-Man doesn't love me anymore. I gotta kill him. I can be Spider-Man. That would have been way more interesting. But nope, pure rage.
And then
Harry's, besides the final fight being completely lackluster.
I would say lackluster.
No, it was pretty lackluster. It was focused on Gwen, not the Goblin.
It was tacking on one more fight before the very end,
just to do it. And I don't know, the ending, especially everything after Gwen Stacy dies.
His problem is that the lowest point of the character is Gwen Stacy dies. That's the lowest point of Spider-Man, and that happens after Electro and Green Goblin has been dealt with. So to him, that feels like a weird, empty ending because
like, it's everything after that.
Why are we watching at this point? Yeah. So I can kind of understand where he's coming from. And now, granted, what would have been the way that they ended it, it felt like either ending on an inhale or leading up for like a ton more movies. It's kind of like flashing because we saw
what it is. It feels like just a pure attempt at hype.
Because as they're Harry's trying to,
and an inhale would be him donning the mask again.
Right, exactly.
Him fighting the Rhino is just marketing. It felt cheap.
Here's how I would have, if you wanted to end it on an inhale without doing all the hyping, because at the end we've got Harry Osborn's like, oh, how many people we have signed up, yada, yada, yada. And then we pan past Doc Ock's arms, we pan past the Vulture's wings, we pan past the Rhino suit, and then we get to see the Rhino in action. What I would have done, or I guess, here's what I think would have made for just a fine ending as well. That was a little bit less, let's give him the action, let's give him razzle-dazzle. I would have been perfectly okay with Spider-Man sitting there and he's watching Gwen Stacy's speech, pan over or rack focus to the spider suit, pan over to Gwen Stacy giving the speech, and you hear thwip, the web shooting out, and then you hear, and then you just pan over to an empty window. Empty room, empty window. And what would it be better? You pan over to the doors ajar and you see Aunt May looking out there and she just smiles. End of movie, roll credits.
Okay, the end did it for me.
Yes, Aunt May. Because if you read the comic books, and now I'm not a super avid fan, but Spider-Man is my favorite. And I do know that in the course of the comic books, Aunt May reveals that she does know that he's Spider-Man. And I'm pretty sure in this moment, Sally Field got a moment where she smiled, and I felt like that was her saying she knew. But I would have liked a little bit more.
I also really like the whole laundry thing.
The laundry. They had this great conversation.
So
they did a great job.
That's what they did really well in this movie. They had amazing dialogue,
great dialogue, and great relationships. All the character interactions
Harry
were very
and Peter.
Because I thought
old friends, it was like
I thought it's like we went through a whole movie without saying that he existed. How can you say you're good friends? But the instant they start to interact, you're like, oh yeah, these are old friends reconnecting.
Yeah, and Gwen and Peter getting back together, all that was like...
There was intense chemistry there. Yeah, Aunt May and Peter Parker, all the relationships were
the acting
solid.
Was very well.
The acting was amazing. Was amazing. We wish that certain aspects of the writing had matched how amazing the acting of the cast was.
All in all, some of the writing Like, the weakness is, it felt contrived. Oh, the planes. The planes were like...
They added in this whole separate subplot of these planes that are about to crash into each other because all the power's
takes
out.
all the city's
and
power,
it's just like, it's just a sidetrack that
like,
you didn't need.
There was no point for that. There was no relation.
They were just trying to add drama. It was a contrived attempt to add more drama because...
If it was something at the power plant, like the hydro
thing exploded and maybe water was flooding the city, that's different. But it was
different.
Just
has
planes for no reason.
It's only vaguely related, and it was very like, how can we
Movie
add more
done
drama
without it? It was like to me, it seemed like a deleted scene. It seemed like a deleted thing that they.
All in all, there was some, like, the whole construction of the movie felt very. Let's put this in.
There were a lot.
There was a lot of that.
The more
overall, it was a good movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But the more I think about it, the more it's like, oh.
When you're at the end looking back, you do see that the script is very. There's a lot of little tiny things shoved in there that you didn't necessarily need. Like you've got this whole subplot where
it felt bloated.
It did
could have been tighter.
It did. It felt like they were kept on trying to shove things in. Like you've got the whole Peter Parker's trying to find out about his father, and Aunt May is finally like, no, I can't tell you things like I'm you're my boy. Like yes, I'm your boy, but I need to know these things.
It felt like a
father.
bunch of subplots that culminated into
exactly. And then there's this whole
nothing.
It's this whole thing about the core of
your
father was
Harry and Peter.
Yes, I think
that should have been the core. They should have just
those two dancing the whole time would have been great. It would have been great. It would have been Batman and Joker. Would have been
great. Anyway, overall. 1 through 10.
Oh man, I'm
just a number.
A solid 8.
7. Cinematically, brilliant. Except for shaky cam.
Ooh, except for shaky cam. And some of the special effects in the first one, Spider-Man looked great. Like the scenes with the lizard and Spider-Man in the halls, I didn't realize all that was CG. In this one, Spider-Man always looked CG, and I think it's because they made his suit too shiny.
Yeah.
His suit gleamed, and he looked fake when he was flying through the city, in my opinion. But everything else, I mean, you've got POV shots. Great movie.
Good movie.
Go see it.
Go see it. I'm Paul Kosmala.
I'm Nathan Fan, and we are the Critical Reviewers. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, like,
this thing.
Suggest
right
movies for us to go and see.
Here. There, it appeared. Now.
Oh, Jesus. How did you do that?
Magic of
it's creeping me out.
Production.
Take it away! It's frightening me! Take it away!